podcast series, The Journey of Joseph, From the Pit to the Palace, Episode 1, Joseph's Dreams and His Brother's Betrayal. In this episode, we dive into the beginning of Joseph's incredible journey. We explore the jealousy that arose from Joseph's dreams, the betrayal by his brothers, and the events that set the stage for his eventual rise to power. This episode highlights the dangers of jealousy and the beginning of God's greater plan for Joseph. Welcome to today's episode of The Journey of Joseph, From the Pit to the Palace. Today, we're going to talk about Joseph's dreams and the heartbreaking betrayal he faced from his own brothers. Though it may seem like the end for Joseph, God's plan was just beginning to unfold. Joseph's story begins in the land of Canaan, where he lived with his father Jacob and his 11 brothers. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, born to him in his old age from his beloved wife Rachel. Because of this, Jacob gave Joseph a special gift, a richly ornamented coat, also known as the coat of many colors. This coat wasn't just a garment, it was a symbol of Jacob's deep affection for Joseph, and it made his brothers deeply jealous. Now, Joseph was a dreamer. God gave him 2 dreams that would spark even more jealousy. In his first dream, Joseph saw himself and his brothers binding sheaves of grain in a field. Suddenly, his sheaf stood upright, and all of his brothers' sheaves gathered around and bowed down to it. Naturally, his brothers didn't take kindly to the idea that one day they would bow to Joseph. And if that wasn't enough, Joseph had a second dream. This time, he dreamed that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to him. When he shared this dream with his brothers, their resentment only grew. Joseph's brothers couldn't stand the sight of him, so one day when they were tending their father's flocks far from home, they saw Joseph approaching and hatched a plan to get rid of him. They stripped him of his precious coat and threw him into a dry cistern, planning to leave him there to die. But an opportunity arose. They saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passing by on their way to Egypt. Instead of killing him, they decided to sell Joseph into slavery for 20 pieces of silver. Their brother, their own flesh and blood, was sold into a life of suffering. But even in the darkest moments, God was still with Joseph. What seemed like the end for Joseph was really just the beginning of a greater plan that God had in store for him. In the next episode, we'll see how Joseph's life unfolds in Egypt, where he remains faithful even in the face of adversity.